Well, hello there.
Hey, bud. How are you?
I am well, young man. How are you?
I'm better than George Santos. He just pled guilty to all the charges. Yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, that
I
wasn't.
literally just came on my phone as I was,
That's okay. That's okay. How
yeah.
do I look to you?
You look, you look, great. I mean, in what way do you mean? I mean, that's a loaded question right there.
This is a loaded question. Do I look a year
Yeah.
older?
Oh, is it your birthday today?
No, it was my birthday last week. So
Oh,
apparently, you're very like in my standards of gifts are it doesn't have to be big, just expensive. So, um, maybe I need to update my maybe I need to update my address to make sure that you get it to me. In
it's funny you say that because I think you know this. Aaron and I were in New Orleans. Um, I think in January. No, maybe it was maybe it was November last year. And I bought you this PJ's coffee thing, and I never sent it to you. And it's been sitting on my desk for like the last year.
and
And I keep
trust me,
looking at it and saying, I really do need to send it to PJ, and then I don't.
yeah, and I could really use the coffee. Seriously.
Yeah. And I stopped drinking coffee actually. That's kind of a new thing. No more
Oh,
coffee for
yeah.
me.
How's the
Yeah.
headaches?
They're fine. Chamomile tea, my man. Chamomile tea is where it's at.
Krystal and Dedric, what do you guys do? Are you naturally caffeinated, or do you partake in the morning juice of adults?
No coffee. I'm not a coffee guy. I think it is convenient that Tal said he had a gift for you. I mean, just how convenient that he had
I know,
purchased one.
right?
He just didn't give it to you.
That's
Yeah.
right.
No,
Uh,
I don't drink. I've
isn't it the
never
thought that
actually.
counts? It's the thought, right? No, I'm sorry.
No, my wife, she don't let me get off
Go
the
ahead,
hook with a
Crystal.
thought that counts.
Yeah.
No, I don't. I've never drank coffee actually ever, but I am a big tea drinker.
Oh,
So
excellent.
I do drink tea. Maybe not every day, but that's my drink of choice.
Occasional Red Bull as well when you need a
Mm.
little shot.
Wow.
When you need some wings.
Yeah.
All right, very
Well,
cool.
PJ, tell our audience we have stars on our show today.
I
It's pretty cool.
outside of us, which is kind of nice because our stars are a little
That
different.
is nice.
This is no, it's fantastic that we have both Krystal and Dedric Polite on the show. They are the dynamic stars of the hit television show 50-50 Flip on Hulu and A&E, where they showcase their remarkable ability to renovate and flip homes for under $50,000 in less than 50 days. Always popular in the speaking circuit, they've shared their vast real estate knowledge on numerous platforms, seminars, and stages nationwide. Their early success was chronicled in the book Profit Like the Pros, written by HGTV star Ken Corsini. They founded the Be Polite Properties Company, and their journey began in North Carolina with a mission to uplift communities through home renovation and build generational wealth. In a matter of a few years, they've grown from 3 rental units to over 70 properties valued in the millions. But like all of our guests, before they made it, they had their share of challenges. While they were still dating, Krystal faced eviction from her apartment after the landlord discovered they were renting it out on Airbnb. Dedric, who was one of the earliest employees at HubSpot, was fired from the company in 2012, a setback which could have derailed their ambitions. Their first real estate deal took 20 months to close, testing their resolve and nearly driving them to give up. And then a shady consultant took advantage of them when they launched their nonprofit. Even during the filming of season 1 of their TV show, they faced immense pressure, with too few hands and too much work pushing them to the brink. Despite these monumentous challenges, Krystal and Dedric persevered. Beyond flipping houses, they've built a diverse portfolio that includes a real estate education company and other ventures focused on financial empowerment. And through their work, the Polites aim to show that anyone can build wealth through real estate, regardless of their background. They're parents as well to 2 young and I'm sure adorable and very intelligent sons. Krystal and Dedric, we're so grateful to have you on the Braving Business podcast.
Wow. Thank you for that introduction.
Thank you guys.
Reminding
Yeah.
me of some of the stuff we've gone through to get
Oh,
here.
my
Some of
goodness.
the
I tried to put some
challenges.
of that in the back of my head.
Right.
That's
funny.
right.
Actually, that's we hear that often. A lot of guests meant, as they sit here and listen, we do a good job. The writers do a good job summarizing people's careers and accomplishments and challenges. And it's not uncommon for people to comment on the fact that it almost takes your breath away to realize the journey you've been on, right? And what it took to get there. Also, PJ had like 7 different variations of the name Dedric. What did you call him? Dedric. I don't know. It's
He
Dedric.
said
but
it. He said it right the first time. Then the
yeah,
second and
then
third,
it
he
went
kind of
downhill
reverted
from
back.
there.
I know.
We'll bring it back.
Call you Mr. Polite. How's that?
Yeah, well,
That was better.
be polite and call him Dedric. So let's get started. Krystal, I want to start with you. You mentioned to us in a pre-interview that you wanted to be an entrepreneur since you were 4 years old. You even envisioned opening your own law firm. First of all, where did you get the gumption to even dream like that? But how did these early dreams shape your path?
Great question. My mother actually told me, since I was 4, when anyone would ask me what I wanted to do, that was my response. I wanted to be an attorney, since I could talk. She said that's what I gravitated towards, was being an attorney. And my goal since I was 4 was I want to have my own law firm, and I want to hire homeless people and train them to work at my law firm. And that was literally my path all the way up until probably about the middle of my freshman year in college. And I ended up producing and directing a stage play, turned in from a fashion show into a stage play, and took it on tour and loved it. Loved the every aspect of the business of directing, producing. And I said, you know what? maybe I should double major in business, entrepreneurship as well, because I didn't realize that you can major in entrepreneurship, to be honest. I had no idea. So I ended up majoring in entrepreneurship as well. And that's kind of what took over. Like, that's what my focus was by into my freshman year. It was like, I want to do entrepreneurship, full steam ahead. That's where my passion was lying at the point.
That is amazing. Where did you go to school?
At that time, it was in Rhode Island at Johnson and Wales before I transferred. So,
cool.
Yep.
You went to Northeastern, right? In Boston.
Yep.
And I think Dedric, you went to Amherst, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I'm kind
Yes.
of remembering the notes. It was about a week ago that I looked at them, but I think those were my son is at Tufts University in Boston now, but he went to Boston University, so he was right next door to you guys.
Oh, BU.
Very good schools.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, I went to Marquette, the Ivy League of the Midwest. Okay, so
There you go.
so both of you faced significant challenges early on your paths, right? Dedric, you, after being one of the earliest employees of HubSpot, no longer there, right? And Krystal, you were evicted from your apartment. Both are life-changing and throws a wrench in the old plans kind of thing. It's easy in hindsight to talk about perseverance, right? We kind of paused after the intro where you're like, wow, we actually did a lot of stuff. But take me back to how you're feeling at that time. What were you thinking about? What kept you motivated to keep going forward?
Yeah, for me, I was working at HubSpot. I was employee like 125. I was in the early days. I was doing sales. And the track I was on, you going to a school like Marquette, Amherst, the Ivy of your little area. And people don't talk about the challenge. They don't talk about getting fired, getting laid off, being on unemployment, those type of things. They only talk about going to Wall Street, becoming a lawyer, a doctor, or something like that. Right. So when I got fired from HubSpot, I was in sales and I missed quota like 2 quarters in a row and I got fired. I just bought a brand new car. I just bought my first house a couple years. So I was afraid. I'm like, man, am I going to lose my car? Am I going to lose my house? And we had just started dating and I'd never gone through getting fired. I was embarrassed. I was afraid. I was depressed. And she's the one who really gave me a new perspective. She was like, look, forget that job. You didn't lose the job. The job lost you. She shook me, like, get out of this depression that you're in. I was walking around, moping around the house for like 2 weeks straight, wearing the same clothes, not shaving, anything. I was just in the dumps. But she really changed my perspective. It was like, look, you're bigger than this. She was like, I want you to ride your motorcycle, clear your head, and think about what you really want to do now, because you now have the opportunity to really go after what you're passionate about instead of just something that's a paycheck.
That's amazing. And I have to stop and talk about fear for a second, because it's a theme that often gets glossed over, right? So people talk about when bad things happen, they get sad, they get disappointed, they are frustrated. But really all of those emotions, I think, start from an emotion of fear of the unknown, fear of and that's really ultimately what it boils down to, is really it's fear of the unknown, right?
Yeah.
And our mind, I've been doing a lot of reading lately about the mind, and most people have narrators in their minds. We think that the voice that's talking to us is us, but it's not actually us. It's a narrator narrating from a certain perspective. And when things go badly in our lives, that narrator tends to be, if you picture the devil and the angel, it's a devil. And you don't have to be religious about it. I'm talking about whichever angle you take on the devil as a religious entity. Just think of the person that is acting like one. And when you are in a place where things are not going your way, fear tends to really capture your heart. And so you were very fortunate, it sounds like, to have a partner that did what a good partner would do, which is do two things at once. One, kick your ass a little bit. Two, build you back up. So good on you, and good on both of you for having done that. Let's, Krystal, you were evicted from your apartment. So tell us that story. And
we were evicted.
Yeah. Okay.
It's actually my idea to
Got
get
it.
into Airbnb, renting her apartment.
Yeah, so he had once he had gotten fired from his job, and I said, take this time, go out, find your dream, follow your true passions. I said, and don't worry about bills, don't worry about any of that. I'll hold you down. And that's exactly what he did. He got up, he started a consulting company, and then he found Airbnb. And when then finding Airbnb, he said, hey, listen, we can Airbnb your apartment out.
And this is before Airbnb was a verb,
this
right?
is 2012.
It
when
right.
it only been around a couple years. So I was like, okay, tell me more. He told me about the whole Airbnb. He was like, oh, but your brother's living there. I said, oh, he did. Hold on 1 second. Hey, yeah, I'm gonna need that apartment. You got 2 weeks. 2 weeks, he was gone. We started moving furniture in, got furniture. He got the site set up. And then 6 months into it, I think it was about 6-7 months, we had already made how much?
About 40,000.
About 40,000 in like 6 months. We ended up, they were doing so much construction around the apartment that we had it rented out. Then the management ended up finding out somehow that we were Airbnb-ing it and served us with an eviction notice. And I just think different than everybody else. Like, I wasn't depressed. I wasn't mad. I was like, all right. And not to mention, we had just found out we were pregnant. Like, literally just found
She
out.
was always staying at my house anyway. So her house was vacant. So it was like, all right.
So I was kind of like, I don't care. Let's pivot. We've seen that this is a true business model. We see that it works. Now let's figure out how we can do it the right way. And let's just pivot. Like, it is what it is. And he was like, are you okay? Are you sure? I mean, I'm over it now. They had the apartment. Let's do what we got to do. We see that it's a proof of concept. This actually works. So let's go full steam ahead.
Yeah, I think that's a very healthy approach, actually. I think it's very cool. There's supposedly an indigenous people's philosophy about thanking things for service. So, like, when you lost your apartment, it doesn't necessarily have to be, oh my gosh, I lost that. It gives you a moment of pause to say, thank you for your service. Thank you for getting me to where I am now. And you've done your job, and I can let you go. Right. And I think there's a sense of closure in that, where you're able to make that pivot that you needed to make with much clearer eyes. And so I think that's very cool that you embodied that.
Yep. Thank you. That's exactly what it was.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, sometimes you just thank you for your service. So you got all this stuff. You have your first child on the way. You have, you're moving around, you're doing all kinds of things. Your first real estate deal, though, took 20 months to close, which is not only a long time, but I can only imagine very discouraging. What kept you from giving up during that time? And how did that experience shape your approach to future deals?
Yeah, so after the Airbnb, we decided to move from Boston, where we grew up, to North Carolina. Her mom was retiring. She was like, I'm going to follow mom because they're super close. And I'm like, well, you're not leaving me here in Boston by myself. We're moving to North Carolina. So we all picked up and moved in 2013. I got a job because, again, we had a mortgage, we had bills to pay. But I'd always wanted to get into real estate, but I was more of a wantrepreneur, right? I was afraid of taking risks, that fear thing, right? False expectation appearing real. I didn't want to take risks because I grew up on Section 8. I didn't grow up with a lot of money. I didn't want to go back to being broke how I grew up. So, fast forward, I started talking about getting in real estate, and I had all the books, I had the tapes, I had gone to the seminars and the classes, but I never took action because I was afraid of losing my shirt. Like you hear so many people was coming out of the '08 crash. And finally she was like, look, man, you're talking about this real estate thing all the time. Let's just do it.
Right.
So she started researching wholesaling. She went and set up our LLC. She got the ballroom. I'm like, oh shoot, okay, let's
We
get
doing
going.
it.
Like, right. Then we started doing it. But it literally took us 20 months.
Somebody
to
married well, PJ. That's what I'm hearing. The
Yeah,
consistent theme here.
absolutely. Absolutely. The best decision I've ever made was marrying this young lady right here. But no, she started doing the research. So we started actually going to classes, taking seminars. So we invested, probably 15, 20,000 into coaching, mentorship, consultants before we closed our first deal. And it wasn't for lack of trying. It took us 20 months. We were trying.
Yeah.
It just took that long to finally break through. But once we got that first deal, it was like an avalanche. We closed like 8 deals within the 30 days after that. And we just been rolling ever since then.
Wow. Tal, to your point, I think it's called, I outpunted my coverage, but
there's so many ways to say it. Some of them are, better than others. I don't know.
Yeah.
I like that.
So I want to talk for a second, and then I have 2 questions, but I want to start with the nonprofit. I don't know what timing wise, this nonprofit, was that after you started doing the television show or before?
Before.
All right. So
Well,
let's talk about that. So you have all these dreams, you have all these ideas, you've got a kick-ass wife who's willing to, not just have you back, but obviously be a, shoulder to shoulder with you. And then you get this, consultant who takes you guys for your money.
Oh yeah.
Tell us about that experience and what lessons did you learn from that, and how the heck did you keep upright at this point? I mean, things aren't going well.
Yeah, I forgot all about that. That was so crazy. I always wanted to do something that service kids. So I did a lot of work back in Boston with my nonprofit where I was working with kids, and I kind of wanted to continue that here. So Dedric was like, hey, I was financing everything at like 23, 24, because I didn't know how nonprofits work. So Dedric was like, hey, listen, let's hire a consultant who can really show us how to do it the right way. We found this guy out of like Raleigh. We ended up meeting with him quite a few times because Dedric, before he put some money down, he really listen, it's like.
This guy was straight out of American Greed. He drove a Mercedes. He had an office. He had all this third party. Like he had all the boxes checked. And I make sure to do my due diligence. And I did not see this coming, him being a scam artist.
And as soon as the check cleared, all of a sudden
10 grand, which is like all we had saved at the time.
Yep. And as soon as the check cleared, we couldn't get a hold of him. Then all of a sudden, the people at his office went from being super responsive to no one responding to who's that? I'm sorry, who are you calling for? Oh. To he's not at an office anymore. There is no office of his there anymore. I was like, oh.
And then like 3 months later, we end up going to the police and they're like, yeah, you're not the only one. There's a whole trail of people who got scammed by this guy.
The person who referred him to us.
All right, so let's do this. So that's the part of the story that's sad and depressing. Tell me the part of the story about how you guys just fought through and overcame it.
Well, it's been a while since we've talked about that.
Yes, and I think really how we overcame it is because I'm constantly telling Dedric, at the end of the day, we're going to face adversity. Don't matter what it is, we're going to face it. It's just now it's going to come down to how are we going to handle it, right? Are we going to rise above it or are we going to let it swallow us? So all the adversity that we face, I tell them is just par for the course. At the end of the day, we either live with it and learn from it and keep moving forward. And for us, that's really what we took away from each one of them. We're just that much closer to our breakthrough. So anytime we come up with that real major adversity, we understand, even as a couple, as a partnership, that must mean we're just that much closer to getting to where we're meant to be.
You know what? That's not, I mean, I think it's entirely true, except for if you're a fan of the Washington Wizards. I have been a fan of the Washington Wizards since I was
Hey, we're Boston
12
Celtics
years
fans,
old.
so we just
Okay.
won the championship, so we're feeling
I
great.
know you guys always win championships. I'm always like, just tell me it's going to have to turn around, right? And then it doesn't. Anyway, sorry for that diversion.
Tal sometimes uses the show as a counseling
Yeah, it's therapy. I mean,
therapy for his poor choice in sports teams. So first of all, I love the attitude. I love the perspective of just being like you're so present in everything as you're going through it, and you're calculating in real time, which I love, because a lot of people don't have that capability or that muscle that's really been worked, and you're very clear-eyed about it, which I think is awesome. Just so kudos to you guys for always being in the present.
Thank you.
Also, just a side note before I get to the next question, I also love how everything, even since you were 4, has been rooted in giving back and helping others. And because, and both of you, from what it sounds like, you weren't born with the proverbial silver spoon in your mouth. You weren't, accepting millions of dollars from daddy to start your own company. You guys were, you came from humble beginnings, and you're not only looking to fulfill the American dream, but you're also looking to help others fulfill the American dream. And
Absolutely.
that's amazing, right? First of all, clap on the back, high fives all around. It's fantastic to have that kind of perspective. Real quick, I know you guys are very successful. I know that you're probably going to be even way more successful 10 years from now. How are you going to keep the little ones in line with their eye on the prize of giving back as well? Like how is that? How are you going to make that generational in your own house?
Yeah, I mean, with us, the whole reason we got into entrepreneurship is to build generational wealth. Like you said, I came from a single parent background, so did she. We never really saw it done right, right? But again, our goal is for our kids to have options where they can follow their true passion versus having to get at a job because they have to. So that's the whole reason we got into entrepreneurship, and just not just set up their generation, but generations after that. Not to just sit around and do nothing, but to really follow their passions, whether it's helping people, being a teacher, being a nurse, being a doctor, whatever you want to be. But entrepreneurship is allowing us to set up that next generation.
And it's been extremely important for us to make sure that we show them that it's much better to give than it is to receive. You get much more gratification. So since birth, this is all they've ever seen. They've always seen mommy and daddy doing good while doing well, right? That it doesn't matter where we are in life, that it matters by who, like I tell people, it doesn't matter how many doors we own. It matters how many doors we can open for that next individual to be able to walk through and change the trajectory of their family tree. I want us to make sure for them, we're not giving them anything, right? Because as soon as you give your child something, as soon as your body is in the dirt, ain't cold or nothing, it's going to be sold out from under them, because they don't have it's not a value there. So for them, they've worked in our business since they were born. This is all they know. They've been at these houses, they've cleaned them out, they've painted, they've done everything. So they have an appreciation for it, for that, but not only that, us as well. So this is what we're teaching them, different principles in life, where it's not just about doing good and how well you can do, but how can you also extend that and help someone else, bring someone along on that ride.
I love it.
And Dedric, you've also said, and this is in my pre-interview notes, that a job doesn't define you, and learning that is a value that you picked up, and it sounded like Krystal helped you with that. Tell us, why do you think that that's such an important thing, particularly for men? Because I think men really struggle with being defined by their jobs.
Yeah, I mean, I think for men, your job, your title, your salary, a lot of men wrap up their self-esteem and their self-worth in that. But what happens again when you get laid off? What happens when you get demoted? Right now, you're demoralized, you're depressed. So I always encourage other men, is to find enjoyment and fulfillment outside of just what you do for work and how much money you earn, right? The thing, because those things can go up and down. You're going to have good times in your career and bad times. But what else, do you bring to the table? What do you do outside of that?
So cool. So very cool. All right.
Well,
so
let's talk about what they do outside of that, which is a TV show.
I know. So I'm insanely curious. How the heck did you get on a TV show? Not that, I mean, first of all, it's amazing and good for you guys. And, obviously, look at you. You look TV ready already. But
They do, right? How did they get on it? Look at them.
I know.
Look at you and me. We're not on TV.
My mom said I have a face for radio. But how did you get on this TV show? And not only that, it must have been, super intense, but also how did you manage to keep you guys together as a family unit, as entrepreneurs, right? Keep what got you to the show? How'd you keep that going? And like what's a lesson do you think our audience can take from it?
Well, how we landed the TV show is we were getting a lot of DMs from networks and casting companies in regards to, hey, we love to talk to you guys about a TV show for at least a year or two before we even looked at A&E. And it was always, no, our kids were small and we was really, really focused on building our business. And then A&E had been in our DMs for about a year. I had no idea because our DMs were crazy anyway with us doing real estate. And people always hitting us. And then they ended up finding an 800 number, our 800 number online, called our office, made our assistant at the time, our secretary, promise to give us the message and to schedule a meeting with them. And so she did. I came into the office. She was like, well, company A&E had called. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, look, we'll get back to them another time. And she's like, well, I kind of promised her that I would schedule the meeting. So I was like, she knows how big I am on keeping our word. That's why our company's name is Be Polite. So I said, okay, go ahead, set it up. We scheduled the meeting. Dedric and I really had no intentions on doing a TV show. So when we sat and spoke with them, it was like, oh, okay, yeah, they were looking at a ton of people for these 3 slots, ton of people.
And they wanted a couple, but they also wanted people who had already had a social media following and had a brand, which we fit the mold for both of those.
And we had said, oh, we'll just do it and see how far we get, but we're really not going to do it. Let's just see how far we'll take it. That's what the plan was. It was like, oh, we'll see, maybe we can get in the top 5. And then after, this is during COVID when everything was shut down, then all of a sudden we're on call after Zoom, every Zoom, it was more people on the Zooms. Then the final one, that was like, hey, we want to offer you guys a slot. And we was like, oh,
we were just seeing how far we could take this. We didn't think we were actually going to get it.
And our face was like stonewall. We was like, because we didn't want to say to them like, oh yeah, because we were both really like, oh, we thought we were gonna make the top 5, so we could tell people like, hey, we made the top 5, like. Yeah. So then we was like, oh, I guess we got to do it then. Okay. And you don't know what you don't know, because come season 1, baby, it was almost not a season 2, I promise you.
Well, let's talk about season 1. So you guys had 3 people doing the work of 13. And by the way, I'm sure a lot of people in our audience who are entrepreneurs can relate. We oftentimes, as entrepreneurs, especially early on, have way more work than resources.
Yes.
And that challenge often defines whether an enterprise sees the next sunrise, right? Are you able to come together versus be drawn apart through the challenge of overwork? And can you learn quickly enough to adjust? Tell us the story.
Yeah, so they told us that once we signed on to do a TV show, we would film maybe 3-4 days a week, maybe 4 to 6 hours a day. Season 1, it ended up being 5 days a week of filming and 10 to 12-hour days, right? Mind you, we have 5 or 6 companies that were running at the same time while filming a TV show. So we didn't know it was going to be that intense. So literally, like, it took us to our breaking point.
Yes.
And that's where a lot of the TV gold comes from, is because we're doing 5 or 6 rehabs at a time. Things are going wrong, and stuff breaks, and
we learned how to flip on national television.
Oh yeah, we had never flipped houses before. We had been in real estate. We had renovated a lot of properties, but the properties they saw us renovating on our social media were actually our rental houses, rental properties. We weren't selling them. Flipping is a little bit different beast between selling and flipping, right? Renting and flipping. So our first flip was actually on season 1, where we told them, like, look, we're not house flippers. Are you sure you want to do a TV show? They're like, no, we want to follow you guys. And if you ask the executive producer, he gets interviewed all the time. He's like, what made you pick the Polites? And he's like, look, I've been doing this for 20 years. I saw their tape And 30 seconds into it, I knew it was them. I knew that was a couple I wanted for the show.
Yeah,
So
it was intense. Like, you don't know what you don't know. And people try and tell you, like, hey, and our agent was like, season 1 is always hard, for everyone. It's hard for everyone. No, it was not hard. Listen, we were slated to do 10 houses. We did 6 because we was like, yeah, we're gonna tap out now and get through these 6 so nobody end up going to jail, because we literally didn't have the best relationship with our GC at the time. And it was a lot of work on us that we did not, like I said, it was 3 of us doing the work of like 17, 18 people that was needed, literally.
Yeah, a lot of sleepless nights, early mornings. I mean, it stretched us to,
Yeah.
we thought we were going to break, but when you get stretched that much, you either break or you grow, and we grew tremendously.
Oh, absolutely.
Man, how old were you guys? This is not that long ago. So,
Yep. So what was this?
Yeah.
Season 1 or now?
Season 1.
Yeah, season 1.
I was I just turned 40. I'm
Okay.
42 now. So
Mhm.
we won't say the ladies.
Yeah, we won't say the lady's age, but
That
I
was
guess
only 2 years ago.
Yeah,
I thought
2,
it was
3 years ago.
Yeah, 2
Yeah, I
years
think I
ago.
just
Yeah.
turned 40.
So it probably feels like 15 years ago, but
It
yeah.
do.
I got a lot more gray hairs, though. I can tell you that.
Yeah. So
Like
so the
34.
the reason I'm asking actually is that I feel like I'll be 51 this year, and I think back to what I had to do with some of my earlier startups, right? So some of the companies I built became gigantic companies, but at the time I started them, I had this vision that they could become gigantic companies, and I had no idea how hard it was to get them there. And now that I'm my age and have been where I've been, I could not imagine even doing that. Like, you have to be at a certain sweet spot in your life
Yep.
Of
to be able
insanity.
to get through that. Yeah, yeah. A
Yeah.
combination of not knowing, having enough energy, enough wherewithal, in your case, each other, right? To
Yep.
both build each other up, probably to, have those tough conversations that are
Yep.
harder, even if you were partners, but not, husband and wife. Those conversations are really, really tough. People start businesses with other people, and at some point it's the water's edge and you stop. But if you're in a marriage, and you could have those conversations, and it's I look back at those times in my life, and I kind of I understand exactly what you're talking about, Krystal, when you say I have no idea how the heck that got done. No
Yep.
idea how it got done. Yeah. But here you are on the other side of that. So let's talk about where you're going, right? So you're continuing to be hugely entrepreneurial, doing different things. Actually, one of the things you're doing is you're opening a 40,000 square foot Sky Zone. Actually, for my birthday, my girlfriend took me to one, and I
Nice.
really enjoyed it.
was great.
So, and now that's a different kind of venture. So, how is the real estate? I mean, obviously, it's a 40,000 square foot place, so I guess there's some real estate involved. But how do you think your real estate experience prepared you for this? And what challenges do you anticipate with this new endeavor?
So that's actually been Krystal's dream. She's passionate about kids and giving back to kids, and she just loves family-oriented things. So since she was young, she wanted to open up a chain of family entertainment centers. And, part of us getting into real estate is how I got her to buy in, because real estate was my dream. I was like, look, if we do real estate, we'll be able to buy enough properties and build up enough cash to be able to invest in your dream, which is building out a chain of family entertainment centers. And that's exactly what we did. We were able to buy a Sky Zone franchise. And now we're going to be opening up that Sky Zone in our town of Burlington, North Carolina.
And the challenges just roll over. They roll from real estate right over to an FEC, because we've been faced with the challenges even finding land or a building. And it's been like a year that we've been searching for land to do a new build or
Retrofit in the building.
And here in this small area, there are no buildings, right? Like, whatsoever. And we knew that, but we didn't think, for us being in real estate, we was like, it's not going to be that hard for us to at least find some land and partner with a developer and have them do a build to suit, because they're already doing so much construction. Well, we were absolutely wrong, and it has been a challenge with that.
Oh. What is FEC?
Family Entertainment Center.
So the Dave and Buster's,
Buster's,
trampoline parks, the golf places, anywhere families can get together and have fun and enjoy themselves.
Bowling alleys.
Movie theaters are considered FECs.
Okay. And but this is indoor skydiving, right?
No.
Trampoline parks.
Yep.
Oh,
So
trampoline parks. Okay.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
guys on the
trampoline park.
trampolines. Okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Oh, that's going to be tons of fun. Lots of, I'm sure lots of insurance waivers.
yes.
We
So-
just had the absolute most knowledgeable person on business insurance on our episode that actually ran. Matter of fact, today, Grace Vandecruz. We should make a connection.
We should.
Oh,
Very helpful.
absolutely.
She's lovely too. She's a
fantastic.
brilliant
She-
woman. Yeah.
Fantastic. So, all right, you guys have dabbled in many, many things. You built a very diverse portfolio, flipping houses, well, live on TV, well, not live, in front of all of us, launching these educational ventures, the trampoline parks and everything. What's your advice for entrepreneurs who are looking to diversify their business without spreading themselves too thin?
That's tough.
That's a great
So
question.
they're already an entrepreneur. How do
Mhm.
you, I think the hardest part for me personally as an entrepreneur is learning how to say no. A lot of
Mm.
entrepreneurs, we have shiny object syndrome. So we tend to take on, oh, squirrel, daffodil.
Yeah.
It's learning what to turn down and focusing on your main thing. I think that's what I would tell entrepreneurs. Don't try to do everything, because when you chase 5 rabbits, you catch none.
And what I would tell,
She's the opposite of me. She's
I'm
gonna
a
say, screw
visionary.
it, just go for it.
I'm the visionary. Dedric is the integrator in our relationship. So I'm typically the one who comes up with every business that we do. It's literally a vision of mine. So for me, I would really tell any new entrepreneur, especially if you are a visionary, right? Because sometimes we can, go all over the places, but we be dead spot on with our visions. So I would really tell them, hey, listen, get a team, right? Get a partner, someone who complements your weaknesses, find someone who complements you with their strengths, right? The great thing about Dedric and I, and the reason why we can move into different directions and go into different businesses, is because we have complementary skill sets. And me and him are yin and yang. Like if he thinks we should go right, I'm thinking we should go left, but we stay in our lanes. And I think when people learn to put a team around them, so that's how our season 2 was so much better, is we put the right team around us. But when you are looking to scale, going to different businesses, find those people that you can actually work with. Don't look at it, because I used to be like, no, we're going to do this. Just us, just us, just us. That's my mindset. I never wanted to bring anyone else in. And he was like, babe, we're going to have to help. We're going to have to bring someone in to help us with this or that, or partner. And best thing you can do, look at people who are already doing what you want to do and see how you can partner with them.
Amazing.
I love that. I think it's great advice. And I love the bringing together of 2 different personalities, whether it's in a marriage or in a business, often brings out the best outcomes. Because I bet that, because my brother was the integrator in the many companies we launched, and I was the visionary. And the visionaries have a lot of things going forward. By the way, what sign are you? I'm just curious, Krystal.
I'm an Aquarius.
Aquarius. Okay. I had a guess you were either a Sagittarius or an Aquarius.
I'm a Sagittarius.
Are you? Okay. Interesting. So, what oftentimes I think happens with people who are visionary and they're not checked is that they don't know when to stop.
Mm-hmm.
They just keep going.
New
Yep.
business every month.
Yep.
A new LLC is started.
Absolutely.
Yep.
It is critical to have someone that is capable of acting as a check and balance on that,
Absolutely.
but that is not an Eeyore, a Debbie Downer, here's why it's not going to work, right? Because visionaries need a partner, whether it's a business partner or a life partner, that encourages their dreams, but also can gently bring them back to earth, right? It sounds like you guys do that exceptionally well.
100%.
That's my role.
There's a big difference. Real quick, I'm sorry. There's a big difference between, it's great to have passion, but you can't let your passion cloud your perception. And as you move forward in things like, Krystal's obviously the driver, she's the engine, but if you don't have some good steering capability that I know that Dedric is bringing to the table, you're just going to be going in circles sometimes, right? And so
absolutely,
it's awesome to see the two of you work so well together? Because I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, that's a fear, in that I know everything. My partner, this is not his area. This is not her area. I have all the answers. And then invariably you don't.
Mhm.
And so it's great to see a married, very healthy, very complementary couple doing so well, because it can be done. Right. And I think you guys are, I don't know.
By the way,
And it-
PJ and his wife are powerhouses too. PJ's wife is a international best-selling romance author, and
Nice.
PJ's been a successful entrepreneur, and they've acted as checks and balances on each other, so he knows what he speaks of.
And I'll
I
tell you what,
love
it's
it.
not easy. It's not easy working with your spouse, right? It's actually
It is
harder.
not.
It's
Or your
easier.
sibling. I work with my brother. It's not easy, but
Right.
you get the best outcomes a lot of the time, right?
Yes.
I just do everything she says. That makes it the most easy.
That's what you say, but it's not really true. All right, let's end on a lighter note, because your team told us that your first date was actually a business meeting.
Oh my.
So I would love to understand what the heck that means.
Yes. So Dedric and I first date was in fact a business meeting, and we met because we lived in Boston. We're both originally from Boston, so it was at a place called Joe's Bar and Grill.
Mhm.
And when we met, he's thinking, oh, we about to have a little date. And I immediately started hitting him with questions like, oh, okay. So are you an entrepreneur? He was like, well, yeah, I'm an entrepreneur. Oh, okay. Tell me some of the things that you've done. What have you done in the entrepreneurship realm? What's your credit score? Do you plan on living here in Massachusetts for long? Oh, okay. No, I'm just asking because anyone who's going to be with me.
What's your 3-year plan?
Yep.
Yeah.
What's your 3-year plan?
5-year
What's your
plan?
5-year plan?
This is all on the first date.
What have
We're
you
sitting
done
down having lunch, and she's
in the last
telling me,
6 months?
Wow.
How are you with entrepreneurship? Are you open to marrying someone, dating someone who's an entrepreneur? Like all of that. I mean credit score, everything.
Krystal, I'm gonna go on a limb and say you didn't have a lot of second dates, because if you did that with every
I
guy, there are a
did.
lot of guys who would be intimidated.
But you
like
know
hell by
why?
that.
Why did I have a second, third?
she ain't gotten proposed
Other
to.
than other than the fact that you're both beautiful people, that had to help. But
Yeah, she had been proposed to about 8 times by different guys before we even met. So she
wow.
At the wedding, I had like 3 of my exes there. We're all great friends, but they told him, they was like, listen, you're not gonna believe her when you start to hear her and think and hear how
mindset is
she
not-
worked, her mindset is, but she is the truth. They all told him, like, listen, she's 100% 10 toes, always gonna be in there for you. She is who she is, believe her. I mean, you got a jewel here. And it wasn't, and I tell people, when he said his credit score, it was what, an 810 at the time, 810, 815. He was like, well, what's yours? I said 540 or something. Like, and he was like, what? And I was like, I said, yeah. He was like, well, you asking me mine. And I said, I know, because I just finished getting all my stuff off my credit, rebuilding my credit. So I just need to know where you were at. So I need to know how I was going to move. Like if he was at a 600, okay, now I'm thinking, okay, he's at a 600. Now I got to help him rebuild his. Let's figure out yours. And while I'm rebuilding mine, now I know how we're going to move together, right? Not versus, oh, you got a 600, I can't mess with him. No, it's just, I'm a planner, right? I'm a visionary. So I have to see where we're going. And I knew when I met him, I was going to marry him at the gas station. I was like, oh, this is the dude I'm going to marry. Okay, cool. Just very matter of fact. I was like, oh, this is him.
How many years ago is this?
We met in 2009. So what's that, 15 years ago?
The one thing that I get the feeling of is that I think you guys are still on your first date. You have first date energy.
That's so romantic.
It is
like the true spouse of a romance writer.
Well, it's a meet cute. What can I say?
Yeah,
it is.
I like that.
It is.
Friends.
First date.
Yeah, our incredible guests today are Krystal and Dedric Polite, the stars of the hit television show 50/50 Flip on Hulu and A&E. They're also the founders and are you co-CEOs of Be Polite, or is somebody a CEO?
We are.
Co-CEOs. All right.
He's CEO, and I'll take anything else underneath it.
Got it. Okay. All right. Well, that's fine. And they're also parents of 2 young boys who I'm sure are learning a lot from their parents. You've been amazing. Thank you so much for being our guest. We'd love to have you back on as your adventure continues. Continued success to you in all that you do.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us. We enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you.
Great.